Hello, everybody. That was a weird way to start the show. Something about a pelican. Welcome to Your Hood's a Joke, episode 8. We're here with Canadian comedy legend Martha Chaves. Hello, Martha.
Hello, Danish.
Hello.
You know, when people already call you a legend, is that they mean your ass is old.
Your ass is old. You know what? Let's dive right into that, actually, because we didn't talk about this before, but I meant to.
Yeah.
I just saw Katt Williams's clip on the radio in Atlanta, right? He said a lot of things, that are being talked about right now. He has a problem with the kind of artists that he thinks are being promoted, like black artists in particular, Tiffany Haddish, Jared Carmichael, Lil Rel, Kevin Hart, and all that. So he has his own theories. But one specific thing he said,
What?
he said, because the host of of the radio show, I think her name is Wanda. So he said about Tiffany Haddish is that 40 other talented black women were skipped in order to give Tiffany everything the last year or so. Okay? And in his words, this is supposed to be the only industry where the way a black woman looks shouldn't be held against her.
Yeah.
Right? But time and time again, they show you that you can be replaced by anybody who's light-skinned. Right?
Oh, wow.
That's exactly what he said.
That's what Katt Williams said.
Yeah, and that it was 2 days ago, and since then Tiffany Haddish has been responding. She didn't really say much. She just said, haha, thanks for the shout out kind of a thing. So she's been keeping it pretty classy. Probably, also being advised not to start some kind of flame war.
Oh, yeah, because...
But there's a lot of things that Katt said that I just thought he was wrong. But that was a good point he made. What he was talking about specifically, because Wanda, the host, was actually defending Tiffany. Obviously, she's saying, she is real, she's funny, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
she's funny.
She's hilarious. Because Katt Williams's theory is that these people get ahead, these specific artists, because they are safe for a white audience, right? So Lil Rel, Jared Carmichael, and Kevin Hart, in his words, are unfuckable. So they're not a threat to men. And Tiffany Haddish, white men in his words, and Tiffany Haddish constantly talks about wanting to have sex with white men. So his theory is that those are the reasons why they get pushed and others don't. But so aside from looks, he also pointed out that why is it that Tiffany Haddish is, she's called real, but a lot of the stuff he talks about is basically, she's talking about pretty ratchet stuff. Like it's all about ghetto this, ghetto that. And he's like, why is the concept of what's real for black Americans always ghetto?
Exactly.
What, if she was an accountant with a nice house and if she talked about that's not real for black people? So he made certain points I would have never expected Katt Williams about.
I love Katt Williams. I mean, he can offend me, but it's just, how would I say, there is a lot of people that can offend a person.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I as a comedian, one of the specials I saw with him that he looked like if he was a cage lion, and that he did it in a round. In a round stage?
No, I don't think I remember. I've only ever seen a little bit of Pimp Chronicles. That's his most famous one.
I don't remember, but I saw one, and even Linda and I, reputable lesbians, were laughing but like our heads off because of the sheer dare.
Oh yeah.
He's like some comics I can't stand, but I always like daring people.
No, absolutely. That Katt Williams, if there's one thing, he's daring. He also, honestly, after that interview,
I think his pants got ripped backstage. What? And they had to bring him a new pair of pants.
Wow.
Like he was pacing so much that his pants got ripped.
They're like, hey, who's got an 11-year-old kid?
yeah, because he's so skinny.
He's 4'9".
That's what I remember. Maybe I am going to be attacked for saying that I like a comic that may not be, an ethnic person. What happened?
Oh, no, we're just fixing this out, yeah.
What an ethnic person should or should not like. Because some people like to dictate who should not like. But I think that he's making a lot of sense. I like Tiffany Haddish, but I don't believe that ghetto is the experience of every black person. At this point.
No, absolutely. And, the final thing that he said that stuck with me is that he owns, first of all, he was talking about how he has more specials than anybody else. He's got 9 more than Richard Pryor, 5 more than this, blah, 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 7 more than Chris Rock. I mean, Chris Rock only releases 1 every 8 years anyway, so that's not a good comparison. He has more than Dave Chappelle, who released 4 this year. I haven't really seen many of them. But what he said was he owns 100% of every special he's ever made. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he used to be a drug dealer, and so he can fund all this, right? And so there's that.
Yeah.
But he said that all of his specials, they make money and it all goes back to him. So after release, let's say it's on Showtime or HBO or whatever, he said he has like the #1 comedy album on a bunch of channels. But he said that after the initial release, they don't really promote it anymore because promoting it is only going to make money for him, not for anybody else. Because again, he owns 100%. So I think that's a very smart way of doing it because these days, that's how we're all doing it, right? We want to own all of our jokes. We want to use the internet to reach our audiences directly.
Yeah.
And not kind of go through the bottlenecks of like maybe only going to comedy clubs and things, you know,
exactly.
maybe
like
the way they were done in the 80s. Yeah.
In my day, it was that I didn't start in the 80s. I'm not that old. I started in 1994.
Okay, yeah.
But in our day, when I took the way I started was that I took a course with Andy Newman, the CEO of Just for Laugh.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the founder, the co-founder of the English side founder of Just for Laugh, Andy Newman. So he taught a course at Concordia University. And I was interested because I loved comedy so much. I was interested in working at the Just for Laugh Museum. That was my interest.
Oh, okay.
I had read a lot about stand-up comedy, and I had gone to a lot of stand-up comedy being the festival in Montreal, but I never thought that I could do it because of my accent, my ethnicity, and that I was embarrassed to speak in public. So I took the course to challenge myself to speak in public. And then the graduation of the course was a show, and I got hooked.
Yeah.
Hopelessly hooked. You should have seen how I woke up. The next day, I woke up in this state of grace. Have you ever woken up like that?
Oh, I know. I exactly after my first show. That's exactly. I know exactly.
This state of grace, like of smile. Yeah, I thought I was ready to be on because sometimes when you're very new, you have absolutely no idea of what this entices.
No, absolutely.
No idea whatsoever of what are the sacrifices that you're going to make, the work that you have to put in.
Yeah, you just assume you're going to be the next big thing 2 months from now.
No, I thought that I was ready to go on Letterman. Why? Because there was nobody Nicaraguan that had gone on Letterman, so I thought that automatically gave me an in, and it was a rude awakening.
It did not help you to be Nicaraguan, to be gay, to be a woman in 1994.
At the time I was not out. I was not out gay.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't even know what that enticed. You know, I am very naive in this thing. I take the course with Andy. I do the first show. I remember that it could have been a disaster, the first show, because it was on amateur night.
Yeah.
And I remember that, when you see the atmosphere of the club, that is very dark. People smoke at the time.
Yeah.
That is very dark, and that it sometimes you feel the sense of doom in a room. And then there were like 10 comics on the bill because it's amateur night, and 3 strippers in the front row. Yelling and having a fight with Phil Harrison was the name of the MC, throwing chips at each other.
Oh my God.
And I am in the back, pacing.
Yeah.
I used to pace it from one leg to the other.
Well, that was 1994.
Yeah.
You did Just for Laughs when?
No, that was 1993.
Oh, 93. Okay.
I did Just for Laugh in 1994.
Okay.
My first Just for Laugh.
Oh my God. 1 year?
9 months.
9 months. Okay, but then what do you credit that to? I mean, obviously you're funny, but do you think your identity helped?
Yes. I do think it was not a televised show.
Oh, but it
was the Montreal show.
Okay.
Within Just for Laugh, and I got the spotlight.
Yeah.
Which meant you're the junior, and you only do 5 minutes.
Oh, so it's like okay.
But it was still Just for Laugh. But the thing is that I prepare those 5 minutes and nauseam, and there are still jokes that I occasionally use from those 5 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
Like the UNICEF kid.
The UNICEF kid. Yeah.
You've been feeding all these years because it still applies.
Yeah, of course
I
it
never
does.
lost the weight.
No, that's
But my first joke was, I know you have an awful. You think I have an awful accent and I don't give a shit.
Okay.
That was my first job.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit. And then I talked about my husband because I did have a husband.
Oh, you were married at the time? Yeah.
But now that the statute of limitations is over, I wasn't married for love.
Oh, okay.
I was married for paper.
For papers. There is no statute of limitations in Canada.
No.
No.
Shit. I loved him. I mean, those were I was married because of my parents.
No, I told you.
I wanted my parents to, because the homophobia was so much that I wanted my parents to.
Well, that's the thing, is that even if you do talk about this, you would be covered under the Refugee Act, because not theoretically, in real life, you had to leave a toxic place. Nicaragua is not good for the LGBTQ.
No, but I was the one who gave him the papers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Damn.
I gave him the paper. I was Canadian by that time.
That's hilarious.
But this is going to air.
Yeah, of course it will. We don't edit anything out. The thing is, if anybody is listening to this, hey, great, that's fine. If you get arrested because of this clip, then I would consider that a success.
Yes. No. Like I really believe that I could, let's say, change. In those days.
Okay. So.
But I didn't. It didn't last long.
Okay, well, so I mean, obviously, with after starting stand-up, everything would have changed for you, right?
Yeah, everything changed. So anyway, like I do Just for Laugh in '94, and the comments, the critique of the show was that the women, me and Heidi Foss.
Heidi Foss, wow.
Me and Heidi Foss, that the women were the weakest link, and that Chavez appeared green and nervous.
But you were new.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was new, but I wasn't. I did well. Like I have it. I have it in one of those fat video, because I have been filming my career for 25 years. So I had it with I filmed with a camera with those video cassettes that were fat.
And you've seen that clip?
No, I don't know how to see it because they don't exist anymore. I mean, I saw it after I did it. But I was like obsessed. Like, how can I say that I was green and that I was nervous? I wasn't nervous. But then I realized I ran into John Rogers, who was a very nice comic from the States. An amazing comic. And he moved back to the States to become a writer. He wrote for Cosby.
Okay.
He's written a lot of things. So John Rogers tells me to relax. He said that what they meant, Martha, he said to me, it's not that you're not good. It's just that it's obvious that compared to everybody else on the show, with what John Rogers, Dave Acker, David John McCarthy, Barry Julian. Barry Julian is the executive producer of Colbert now.
Oh, wow.
And he had been doing comedy since he was 16. His mother would drop him his mother would go with him at the club. And then, by the time I started, all of these people had already been doing, Joey Elias, have been doing Scott Falconbridge.
And you and Heidi Foss were brand new?
I was brand new. Heidi began before.
Oh, okay.
But you know, like how it was, we were the only two women in Montreal.
Whoa.
So then when he told me that, you don't have, he goes, you don't, because I said my favorite comic is Robin Williams.
Okay.
And then that's my favorite comic. And then he goes, you don't have to see geniuses. He goes, if you got a chance, look at Canadian comics. Look at Derek Edwards. Look at Brent Bott, how they construct a joke. He gave me good advice. And then I put in my head, I will never feel as if I don't belong.
Right. No, absolutely.
I will never feel, because I didn't do badly individually, but in comparison to the whole show, yes, I was green.
Well, exactly. That's what I meant, because, there's a very similar complaint in comedy today, in 2018, that a lot of people get opportunities too early.
Yeah.
Because of who they are, not what they can say.
Yeah.
Right? So it tends to be mostly leveled at women and people of color.
Yes.
Right?
Like, yes, the other day, I don't mean to interrupt you,
no,
but
please,
the other day, a friend of mine, white comedian, was complaining that they told him that he was too old and too white
Okay.
to do the debaters. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to show you the list of people who do the debaters.
Oh yeah, the debaters is
and then white,
quite monochromatic.
white, and then the person of color, white. I never got it because I said to myself, my whole fight has been all my life to be considered a peer of good comics that I admire.
A funny comic,
and to stop that, to that people wouldn't say, oh, Martha Chaves, she just got this because she was ethnic or ethnic or a woman or gay. No, my aim has been to be a comic, not a woman comic, not an ethnic comic, not a gay comic.
Yeah,
a comic, that can hold her own, because I can.
Okay.
No. I worked very hard, and in those days when I began, there were no places, especially in Montreal, that is English comedy is a comedy for the minority.
Well, yeah, there's not that many Anglophones.
So you couldn't have so many clubs like in Toronto and the surroundings of Toronto because there was no audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, Montreal has had a big drain of comedians, English-speaking comedians, coming from Montreal to Toronto and elsewhere because, yeah, I mean, Montreal's where Just for Laughs is, but how many people speak English in Quebec? Right?
Exactly. The three clubs were too much.
Oh, even one club is almost...
It
is enough. Yeah.
It's enough. But coming back to Montreal, so I did everything. I did shows at homeless shelters. I did shows. I got involved with the spoken word community where I made a lot of good friends that they would put me on the shows. I did poetry slams. And I did my act. I did it. And then... miracle.
Yeah.
A miracle happened in 1995. Kenny Robinson comes to Montreal with the Nubian Disciples of Prayer show. Kenny Robinson, he was produced by Keith and Karen. And my neighbor Shahid, who was working at Much Music. And they had, I don't know why Shahid had some relation with Keith and Karen. And he goes, yo, Martha, you know Kenny Robinson, you know that comic Kenny Robinson? No, I don't know anybody almost. I mostly know people from Montreal. And then, well, he's putting on a black show, ethnic show, and I can hook you up. Do you want to do that show? It's at Club Soda.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's at Club Soda. 900 people came to the show.
Yeah. Club Soda's great.
I destroyed it.
Nice.
I did the black people. Like, I have that set too. Where you see black people. Like,
I'm very excited over your set.
Rocking.
Yeah.
No, the black audiences rock.
Yeah, of course.
When they laugh.
Yeah.
They express. So I destroyed it. And Kenny invited me to do it in Toronto. I come and do it in Toronto, and Mark Breslin was in the crowd.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I got into YHAJ.
Oh, from the Kenny's show.
Yeah, I destroyed it in Toronto too. And Mark Breslin goes, you have to come. You have to start thinking about moving to Toronto.
It's good advice, yeah.
You have to start going to Ottawa, which was close to Montreal, and then you can already co-middle.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right away, and co-middling was 20 minutes.
So in terms of the establishment, in this case would have been YHAJ, right? So you're now with YHAJ. Did you find that they were like very good in terms of getting you gigs, getting you more exposure, getting you more shows? Well,
you know what? How would I say? It's like when you don't know, it's like when I became a refugee, that I did it on my own. I had no family here. Because what happened is that I came here to finish my high school, to a relative's house in Montreal, because the young people were getting involved in the revolution, and my parents didn't want to. Then, 6 months later, in 1979, my parents had to flee Nicaragua.
Oh, okay.
And they go to Guatemala. And they tell me that we can't support you anymore. My aunt goes back to Nicaragua. I can't go back to Nicaragua.
No.
Because my parents have been kicked out. and I cannot go back where they are in Guatemala because I had no papers.
Right.
So I am in limbo here in Canada. My visa was going to expire, and all of the Nicaraguan students started living together.
Oh, okay.
And one of them, his father had been a refugee. So he tells me, why don't you go apply for refugee status? So I did it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I was babysitting for a Jewish lawyer in Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Stephen Corda, in case he listens. And he recommended me to Julius Gray, who became a major human rights lawyer.
Oh, okay.
And he started the procedure of my papers. But I have my passport. I can show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I was deemed stateless.
Stateless? Yeah.
Now, if I had known everything that it enticed at that moment, I wouldn't have applied. But then I started living with Giovanna, my first girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go back anywhere. But my prayer was, please, like, don't send me back.
Yeah.
And my parents never had any interest in moving here because they were lawyers and they didn't speak English. And in Guatemala, at least they could work.
You could work as lawyers? Oh, okay.
And then my father passed away in 82, but my mother became a lawyer all over again. Like, she did her equivalences there. And of course, whenever they had the inclination, maybe we should all move to Canada. No, because I was already in my lesbianism.
Yeah. And,
but it's just like that with comedy. I didn't know everything that it enticed. All the work, I didn't know that there was going to be racism. I didn't know, because I didn't think about that. The only thing I thought about, and I have my diaries. I can go read it. Like there were people that I occasionally hated. that now that I read it, why did I hate
like
that
a little
person?
kill list? Be like, dead to me.
This stupid guy, what he did to me, he grabbed my camera and put it down because I was doing better than him.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
And then we are friends, and I have never brought up stupid things like high school.
Okay.
And of course there was YHAJ gave me enough work. I never made a tons of as a middle. I moved only here into Toronto in 1998.
Oh, okay.
But I started working for them in 95.
But
like going to Ottawa, and then I will come and do a tour here as a middle.
So when you say that you didn't expect the racism, you mean racism from the audience in the sense that they didn't understand your jokes, or they just were whatever?
No.
From comedians?
From comedian or the audience. I knew that I was different. I acknowledged that I was the ideal. That's why also I didn't come out right away, because I had enough with the ethnicity and the accent.
Right.
If I tell them I'm a lesbian, does she have an accent with her pussy too? In her labia too? It was too complicated.
Well, yeah.
You have to concentrate in what you can in comedy.
Well, that's what I mean. So your identity was a liability then?
No, I didn't hide it. I just didn't talk about it.
You didn't talk about it?
I didn't talk about it, but I also didn't talk about. The only thing is I married this. I will say that I married this guy, and I think he just married me for the papers.
Right. Yeah.
Because when we make love, he will go, oh, baby, oh mommy, oh Canada. That was the only joke. I never talk about relationship with men.
Yeah.
I never talk about.
That's hilarious. Oh Canada.
Oh Canada, I'm gonna bring it back.
Please, this is great.
Bring it back. I usually do it when there is an American with a Canadian in the crowd. I go, does he go, oh baby, oh Canada? But the thing is, I didn't. I knew what bugged me the most. A manager, and I'm not gonna say his name. I go to his club right after doing Just for Laugh, and then I wanted to meet. I came demanding that I wanted to already middle in his club. Because I had done Just for Laugh, and he said to me, well, you know why you did Just for Laugh. You were a quota.
Right, yeah.
He said to me, and I held back my tears. And then I thought, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
maybe. And I thought, maybe, and I put myself, I will never feel like that again.
Well, because I mean, people are going to say, even today, no matter how funny anybody is, there's going to be there's going to be somebody out there's like, oh, that person only got it because they're a woman, they're a person of color, their sexuality, whatever. So it's kind of up to us to just not think about that.
Exactly. Like the good thing about stand-up comedy, though, is that you prove it when you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
No matter what you say, if they are laughing, I'm doing my job.
That's what I mean. Like, if the audience is laughing, you're doing your job.
Exactly.
Humor is subjective to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? So what's funny to one person is not to the next. This is all very basic. What I find interesting is how people double down on their preconceived notions of what an art form is, and if you don't do it this way, you are not an artist.
It's exactly like comedy is not soccer. So in soccer, you put the ball in the net without touching it with your hands.
You got rules.
And then you got rules. You do, like, comedy is absolutely subjective. But if I see that comedy is translation. It's not only translation from my accent and my experiences in Nicaragua. It's translation, like anywhere that you go, is translating your person to this audience. And I don't mean pandering.
No, I know what you're saying.
I always thought I never pandered. I never put down my own to exalt the white people.
Right.
And also, there is another thing that I may have not been a comedian with a big, because when I went to I went several times to Los Angeles. When I went to Los Angeles, I saw that Latin comedians talk a lot about the ghetto, their ghetto, about coming from the hood. And I didn't from Nicaragua. I didn't come from the hood.
No, I know, because I get when I see, like, let's say brown comedians, right? And I hear them talk about certain things, like, like, I didn't grow up in the same circumstance. Like, I've been traveling a lot. I'm Soviet by birth. I grew up in the USSR, right? And then I was poor in poor countries. Right? I lived,
exactly.
You want to talk about the ghetto? Try living in the poorest neighborhood in Bangladesh. I'm not even joking. The number one export from the neighborhood I grew up in is terrorism.
Wow.
Okay, like, that place is called, it's in Dhaka. It's a neighborhood called Mohammedpur. You know how Chris Rock has a joke about, if there's any street in America named after Martin Luther King, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if it's MLK Boulevard, you're about to get shot. It's the same with Mohammed. If a neighborhood is named after Mohammed, there's some shit. On my 14th birthday, I saw a guy get shot in the head in front of me. Like, boom, he bled out in front of me. That was a bad neighborhood.
That's
right?
a bad neighborhood.
But it's not the kind of subject matter that a lot of South Asian comedians will talk about here, because it's more about immigrant families, the dynamics, Bollywood, arranged marriage, things like that, right? So there's always, like, this tension between what people think your identity is and who you are individually.
Exactly.
Right?
I always wanted to. I was always like, and then I started seeing Rosal and all of the other brown. When I came to Ontario, it was a complete other test, because in Montreal I was cocooned.
And you're also being looked at by Quebecois, like, from the French lens almost.
Exactly. But no, I was in a minority, allophones. We call the people who are immigrants in Quebec and speak English.
Allophones.
I was an allophone.
Yeah.
And I was respected by the festival. I got the festival so many times because I hosted a show called Globecom. I was the host for 4 years in a row. So that's why I have so many Just for Laugh under my belt, but only three galas.
Well, also because you're funny.
Yeah. No, I know, but I mean, I did. It was not TV. What I mean, I can say I've been in Just for Laugh 13 times, but it's not that I have 13 galas.
No, of course, it's a big festival, right? So you have live shows. Only 10% of it is actually televised, right?
Now it's more with
Netflix,
Kevin Hart, and all
Hart.
of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. Is because, let's say, if you had started today, like, would you actually prefer to do your career started in the present conditions or the conditions that you actually faced? The question I'm getting to is, do you think things have gotten better or worse?
I think they have gotten better in the sense that in my day, as I was telling you, the only hope for television was that you got the festival, you got a gala, and then you hope, because in those days Margaret Cho got her sitcom Just for Laugh with 4 minutes of material.
Oh wow!
Her Korean Tim, who else got it? The Toolman Taylor.
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen got his career in Just for Laugh. Ray Romano got his career. In those days, they were handing sitcoms.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was your hope, like I hope. So your hope was to hone. I had the guidance of Andy Nullman too, and of Ernie Butler. May he rest in peace. He took me under his wing, so he would take me all of these outside shows, from the club to Cornwall, to this to that, and then that you had to have 7 minutes in which they would build a show around you.
Oh, so you got to give them the elevator pitch in your set, basically. This is who I am.
The elevator, like Roseanne. Let's say Roseanne was the domestic goddess in those 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, we were talking about Roseanne earlier, right?
The Ray Romano was the guy who was married and who had a nagging mother in those 7 minutes. I think the other Kevin
Dillon?
No, Kevin, the fat guy.
Oh, Kevin James.
Yes, he hosted one of my guys. Kevin James also got in Just for Laugh. I got offered in 1998. I got offered a holding deal that they would hold me if eventually something came in their programming that would be appropriate for me. But my managers at the time, who were the same managers of Chris Rock by the time, they said no, because it meant that you would be there waiting in Los Angeles, and then if you didn't get anything, you would become damaged goods.
Yeah, exactly. You became the one who lost a holding deal.
Yes, exactly. It was $60,000. That was the time when Pete Johansson got like 600,000 or something.
Oh wow!
He got a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
For a show?
No, for a development deal.
Oh wow!
I got a holding deal offer. He got an actual development deal.
Oh, I mean, Pete Johansson is hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He's like so smart and
sharp. Very the kind of jokes I want to hear. Actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Sharp and feminists and a lot of things that
nuanced.
Yeah,
there's a lot of he's open to learning, right? Which I find people are very hardened these days. It's like Camp A versus Camp B, red versus blue. Right?
Exactly. And then what happened is I got the movie. I got the movie with Chris Rock. I got the movie with Denzel. I got the movie. And then by 2006, when I had already saved enough to move to Los Angeles, my mom got sick.
Oh.
Things like that happen. My mother gets sick, and then I go to Guatemala, and all of the savings went into her brain cancer.
No, yeah. That's,
and I don't regret it. By the time I came back, because I was coming just to do tours here, by the time I came back in 2008, things have completely changed.
Yeah.
You got the internet.
Of course.
You got they don't give deals at Just for Laugh anymore.
No, hell no. No, I mean
because it's so easy. You know what I mean. It's now there is the web series.
Well, yeah.
Now is all of that.
The model for stand-up comedy has changed completely, right? Because in the 90s, you had to go through a club, to the festival, to the deal.
Yeah.
Right? And these are all, the way I see, they're filters.
Yeah.
But with the internet, it's kind of the opposite. You first make a name for yourself because you can access your audience a million different ways. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, whatever, what have you, right? I'm trying to do the exact same thing with Your Hood's a Joke. I'm trying to take it directly to the audience that will like it because I can. They don't have to wait for Friday night or Saturday night to come and see someone new and then find out more about them. I was actually last episode, I was talking about this with Jerry Hall. You met him? He was also on the Your Hood the Joke show.
Jerry Hall from Hamilton.
From Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was saying that, before he was doing comedy, like 20 years ago, he said, if you, let's say, lived in Hamilton and you wanted to just see a show at Yuck Yucks on a Friday or Saturday, you'd have to buy the ticket on a Tuesday. Otherwise, it would be sold out. Everybody knew that. You got to buy the ticket Monday or Tuesday, otherwise you're not going to be able to see it. And there goes your chance to be entertained. Now, just Google the person. You can see their whole library of shows. You don't have to go down to any club.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the advantage it gives the creator, where you don't have to wait for some gatekeeper, some kingmaker, some star maker to discover you.
But there is how will I say this? It's a double edged.
Yeah, no, of course it is. A lot of garbage gets cleared.
For example, I was one of, like, they told us, like, everybody, like all of the guys that I looked up to, and that I'm going to emphasize, I had almost no women to look up to.
Okay, yeah.
Basically, I had nobody to look up to because I was a gay ethnic woman. Who was I going to look up to?
Yeah, now that I think,
you know what I mean. So I idolize a lot of the guys I like. I love Roseanne, although I didn't identify with her because then Margaret Cho came along. I love Margaret Cho. To look up to, I say I could be a Margaret Cho. I could have a show. And in fact, that's why I had such good management.
Well, absolutely, because you see yourself reflected in the industry. Suddenly you're like, oh, maybe I have a shot here. I think a lot of people who have always been represented don't understand that.
But people, for example, in my day, they told us if industry is like, if the gatekeepers see you, especially since I lived just for laugh a lot. If the gatekeepers see you and you're green, you're doomed.
Yeah, you have to be seen when you're fleshed out.
And at the moment, some people put out clips of them in stand-up comedy clips in the clubs or whatever. That in a few years, if they do develop as a comic, because this takes time.
Yeah, it's true.
It's stew. It's like a stew. It takes time. You cannot be. It's like practicing the guitar.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it is.
It takes time. Like you cannot pretend that you're going to present something as a concert when you just know a few notes.
Yeah, no, you're right, because a lot of comedians will release clips of themselves
that when are not ready.
When they shouldn't. And that's the first impression you get of this person. You're like, oh, and then you kind of, I'm the same way. If I see someone, I'm out doing shows and you see somebody bomb a couple times, blah, blah, blah. As a comedian, you know what's going on. But you can also see the audience kind of like doing a check mark in their head, almost be like, oh, this is how this person is.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same with, just posting your clip when you've only been doing comedy for a year.
Listen, I am so happy. You know me. You see me with my camera in every show.
Yes.
Like I'm the person that has taped 25 years of career in every show, be it a coffee shop, be it because you don't know what's going to happen there. And that's one of the ways I write. Sometimes, so many times have happened that I say something and I don't know why was that funny, but I repeat it and they laugh again.
Yeah, no, same way. It's not for everybody to see. It's only and it's so hard to watch yourself.
It's so hard. I hate to watch myself. But I remember that I have jokes that I am sure will get me in trouble now, not because I was or have ever been an offensive comic, it's because I didn't have certain awareness.
Well, yeah, that's
at the time.
That's just a change of, that's just people growing and changing and the world growing and changing. Right?
For example, I used to say this joke that the Eskimos.
Oh, so you're already in trouble now.
Exactly. The Eskimos have 100 words for snow. Because there is a lot of snow. So they don't think it's one word if is enough to describe snow, which I don't understand why Latin people don't have 100 words for injustice. You see, the joke is good,
no,
but as soon as I said the word, if I said the word Eskimo,
today you could easily switch that to say Inuit.
No, I usually I know, but it's in recorded.
Right.
What else did I say? And I have like 10 years of clips on the CBC.
Well, yeah,
but I'm sure that there are some things frowned upon.
There are plenty of jokes I think every comedian has that they won't do or can't do anymore because it was very specific to the time. And eras change. What people think is funny, what is considered punching up and punching down, even that changes.
Oh, like I used to have this joke, and it's not even that old, that I would say that I believe that Canada is peaceful because it's cold.
Okay.
Because there is no cause whatsoever that is going to make me move my ass in minus 20 degrees.
But today that's not true. You're always out there at marches.
And then I go, especially I'm not going to go protests about global warming. Because the joke is I'm cold.
Yeah, you're cold.
I want word and I fuck the polar bears. I'm more important. But I know where I'm coming from. It's not that I don't care about that.
No, it's an absurdist take.
It's an absurdist take. But God forbid. God forbid that would be she doesn't like the polar bears.
That is true. Scrutiny today is like
scrutiny is a lot of scrutiny. Sometimes I'm sorry I talk a lot. Sometimes ignorance is not an excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse. I didn't know up to one point that First Nations are not to be called Indians.
No, I didn't know that either.
Because I have or natives. Because I have First Nation friends that call themselves Indians.
Right.
So I didn't know, but that ignorance doesn't excuse me. And I think I may have a clip on the CBC that says, in Winnipeg, I look Indian.
Right.
People ask me, what is your Indian name? I say tap dances with immigration.
Okay.
That's what I think. Somebody asked me, what is your Indian name? And I said, Indian name. Yeah, like dances with dances with wolves.
Oh, okay.
And I said, my Indian name, tap dances with immigration. That now I cringe.
Of course.
At the word Indian, and it was never malice from
well, that's
my
the thing.
part.
That's you willing to change, right? What I find is because there's this tension, right, between new comics and everybody else, and one of the things is people who are like yourself who reflect, right, and evolve and adapt and change, and others who think the very act of changing is some kind of attack on them.
No,
that there is that because. Yes, of course, there's a lot of overcorrection happening.
Yeah.
There's sometimes too much scrutiny where you take something said by somebody 10, 15, 20 years ago and you hold that to today's standard and you punish them by today's standard, even if they've evolved and changed and grown, right?
Yeah.
I think that's incorrect. Like, people should be given an opportunity to better themselves, obviously. But at the same time, there's others who are like, why shouldn't I say the whatever, insert any number of words or whatever they want to say?
There is some people that confuse assholery with edginess.
Correct. Yeah, and they don't even know any of that. They don't understand that sometimes people are just shocked by what you're saying. They're not impressed. No, they are.
For example, some people cannot take Stanhope. I can take him because I see the intelligence, I see the satire behind. I can just not take somebody to be attacking women and minority because you're attacking me.
There's no art.
You
don't see the art in it. They think that just the act of being shocking is art.
Yeah.
No, it's not. A 9-year-old can do that.
And when you're a white comic that comes and tells me, I don't get booked because I'm a white guy, I want to punch you. Like I want to hit you with a baseball bat. Yeah. That's what I said to the comic. Go see the list.
Look at the list.
On this, go see the list on Just for Laugh. The ratio of male to females and the ratio of white people to ethnic people. Go see it. Do me that favor.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because when big festivals book people, right, in Canada, JFL, Winnipeg, JFL Toronto, and all those, right? Every time there is a show with more than 2 people who are of some kind of ethnicity, that charge comes out that they're just doing it based on quotas. They're doing it, and I'm like, well, have you actually listened to those people? I have, not gonna lie, in the last 5 years, I have noticed here and there people getting opportunities when they should, and I think that's a problem that has existed forever. There's always people who get chances before they're ready for XYZ reason.
Yeah.
Maybe because they slept with the right person. Maybe they're the right identity. Maybe they're saying the thing that the network wants to put on TV for whatever reason. It has all these other factors, right? It's not new. But suddenly today it's like, that show has 3 women and all 3 of them are ethnic and one of them is gay, and the only reason all 3 of them got in is because they're ethnic, women, or gay.
I have them 3, and I am limping from a foot. I am also differently able.
Well, that's my point. Is that the argument of quotas and all that has been around for a while, right? But there has been a change in how shows are booked. Like when we talk about, okay, look at the number of white comics versus ethnic comics. There is an argument to be made that it's also how many people are trying comedy. It's more, way more, by a factor of, I would say, 20 to 1 to white people,
and
right?
who was like, for example, when Kenny began the Nubian show, black comics had a lot more of opportunity to do to be in the Nubian show.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And so that was it still is an important show.
Yeah.
A lot of comics believe that it's amateur night. No,
they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
They don't know what the hell.
It's
the
a hard
Nubian
room
show
sometimes.
Is a hard room. I almost get booed because in the other room where Absolute is now. That was YHAJ before. And this was in the early 2000s. And DMX was in town.
Oh, wow.
For some reason, and he came to the Nubian show. And his bodyguards are in the back having a fight with the manager of YHAJ. And so people are looking like this. People are looking.
Yeah.
And Kenny Robbins said, hey, this is Martha Chaves. She's in a movie with Chris Rock. And give it up for her. But I went timid. Because I know
something's up.
That something is happening, and DMX is sitting there and looking at me, and so I went like I was not like with the force that I usually am, and then I start hearing in the back of the room. the ironic applause.
Oh my God.
So I was supposed to do 15 minutes. I did 10 because I don't think I was gonna recover from the booing.
Well, yeah.
Because when they booed you was merciless.
The Nubian show tells you when they don't like you.
But not anymore. not these crowds. I don't think booing happens anymore. But at the beginning, like there was a guy. There was a guy. That, I'm not gonna say his name. But they boo his ass. And then
was he the token white comic?
No.
Oh, okay. Because he kind of puts on one white guy per show.
Sometimes, like the guys that, like for example, there was a guy who is now classified as a sex offender.
Oh dear God!
You know who he is?
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I forget his name.
Actually, no. There's 7 people I'm thinking of right now.
Okay. What was his name? Rob Cliff.
Oh, that guy. No, he's actually a sex offender. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But he grew up on Jane and Finch with a black family, and he had like the perfect patois.
I've heard that he used to be very popular at Nubian Night.
He was one of the most popular people. Because black people love it when you can talk, when you can impersonate.
Really? Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I don't do it that much because there is people that need it more than me.
Of course. Yeah,
but whenever, like Kenny, I will always credit with the fact that he was, if I hadn't done that show in Montreal, maybe I wouldn't have come so early to.
And I'm sure
YHAJ.
that's what I wanted to get at. So the Nubian show did a lot for you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I know for a fact it's done a lot for a lot
of people
who would not have been in that room seen by those people if not for that show, right?
I got my comics episode at the Nubian show.
Yeah, exactly. So today, in fast forward to 2018, over 20 years after that, there are innumerable number of shows that are very niche, that are specifically for certain kinds of comics, certain demographics. Like the Nubian show was the all-black comedy show, which kind of was seen as the ethnic show, which is kind of odd because its mandate was specifically the Nubian black disciples of prior show. Nubian
disciples of prior.
Exactly. So now we've got like so many. Even Your Hood's a Joke. My show is a battle show, but obviously because of the nature of it, I have a lot of diverse comics on, right?
Yeah, you cannot be having the same country all the time.
Exactly. Same with, there's like so many shows around town. There's Yas Queen, which is for women of color, every Thursday, and it's always sold out. Shade.
Is it every Thursday?
Oh, sorry, not every Thursday.
I think
it's once a month. It's once, I forget which Thursday, maybe the first Thursday. But either way, it's always sold out, right? There's all these shows, Muslim Interrupted, Ali Hassan's show. Jess Solomon and Iman, they do their
Jess Solomon and Deanne Smith.
No, that's Solomon and Smith. But Jess, they do the L. Solomon's show.
Oh, I haven't done it.
Because, Jess is Jewish, Iman is Palestinian.
Yeah.
So they do.
And they are married.
And they're married, So my point is that today...
Jess has a gun, Iman only has rocks.
Okay, I'm going to send this to them. But my point is that there's so many more avenues for people
of
color.
Exactly.
And
like
for
that's
women.
what changed. Like Comedy Bar came along.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody and their dog
Mm-hmm.
can put on a comedy show.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not a comedy show. Plus a lot of more of awareness came about, which is good and is bad.
Well,
also because the quality dilutes.
No, 100%.
And the
I
delusions
absolutely
of
agree
people
with.
also.
I agree that there is a hit to the quality because now, like I know this from just booking my show.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want my show to be just one ethnicity or one group of people, right? So I try to have it a balance. But every month I realize that just because of percentages, because of so many reasons, there just aren't as many ethnic comics out of 100. I would say maybe 10%, 15, 20, 20 if I'm being generous, right? So it's just the nature of who's involved in the art. The counter argument to that is it has been so hostile to others that other people have not thought of comedy or historically did not think of comedy as something they could do.
Yeah.
Women, minorities,
I was fortunate because Mark Breslin always treated me in that respect with respect.
Do you find
I didn't find that YHAJ was
No, they
racist.
treated you as a comedian.
Yeah.
Right. So
that I was starting, that was developing.
What is your like experience with the newer producers who do all these shows? Inclusive shows, ethnic shows.
I have done them all.
Yeah.
I have done them all. What would I say? I do. Occasionally, I do queer and present danger.
Yeah.
I have done Shade once, the one that they tape
with the TVO audience.
Yeah, I don't apply that much because, as I said, I am developed, and I'm taking the spot from another person.
Right.
My beef with those kinds of show is like to say, no, the headliner. Somebody that has been doing it for 3 months.
Right.
It's delusional for the person, and it's delusional for the producer.
Well, no, I see what you're saying because you don't want to give somebody that title before they're ready.
Exactly, and then another thing is, why don't you go? Like as a young comic, I went to whether I was booked or not. I went to see the headliner 4 times, like the whole weekend, because since they let comedians or aspiring comedians free at the comedy club, I went to see them, and that's the way at the beginning, right in Montreal, whoever came from Ontario at the Comedy Works of Jimbo's Comedy Works, Ray Romano came, Louis C.K. came, Dennis Leary came, Eddie Brill came to the show, Dave Attell, Mark Maron. I saw all of those guys.
And you saw them how they did it night after night.
And so I have they did, and then to clue in. Because I realize, like when you start doing comedy, you think that you come up with a set all the time.
Yeah, and everybody thinks the Saturday night 9:00 show is how it's always gonna be.
Yeah,
right.
Or the one that you see on Netflix.
Exactly,
because you don't see how people do fake spontaneity.
You want to see what the headliner does on a Thursday versus the Sunday versus Friday.
Like even if I did it as a job.
Yeah,
I went to see them, and then when I started touring with the headliners of YHAJ, I opened for Kenny, I opened for Glenn Foster, I opened for all the big guys, for Eric Tony, and I wrote for his talk show too. I opened for, who was the one? Mike Bullard.
Oh, okay.
Mike Bullard was like a master class in how to relate to the crowd.
Okay.
I find that in these new things, you don't get that kind of, in these new niche shows.
Yeah, you don't do any of what you just described.
You don't do that you're preaching to the choir.
In fact, a lot of the new wave of comedy is exactly an attempt to avoid doing what you did, though.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not doing it because they don't know. people don't want to do what you just described. They don't want to go open for somebody else in the middle of Ontario. They don't want to necessarily do the road, because it's a different comedy muscle. Right? It's a wholly different comedy muscle.
This was another teaching from my older peers. I don't remember who, but for us, for the Comics of Montreal, was amazing if YHAJ book you to work outside Montreal, because Montreal, we were protected.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's the same in Toronto, Vancouver, wherever you're at.
So imagine when I start doing the road, my desire was to pronounce everything.
Right.
And not only pronounce, enunciate.
Yeah.
Because if they miss it, they miss one word, they miss one word. I was of the setup punch school because I come from Montreal, and then my aim was to tell stories, which is, you see me now, I do tell stories on stage. And it was a challenge, but I tell you, the pleasure I got when I translated myself, me, woman from Nicaragua that has nothing to do in Timmins, Ontario, and I made them laugh.
No, absolutely, because you won.
Yeah,
it's a victory.
You won, whether they like me or not, whether they understood one word I said or not, whether if they just were drunk and they just were seeing this crazy Spanish woman. I know, but I did work very hard for that. And I find that the more niche shows you do, it's beautiful to perform for gay people, for me. It's beautiful to perform for Latin people, although Latin people are very homophobic.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I'm not dissing my own, but
no, the same with brown people. It's a very
generally with the Latin crowd, I have had to win them over first and come out after.
But you're talking about doing niche shows where there is a separate kind of joy and even a separate kind of material that you're doing there, because you're so close to them in terms of your identity, right? Like you said, when you're doing a show for gay people, you don't have to do jokes the same way you do for a regular mixed audience, right?
Yeah,
because you have a shortcut.
Yes, and still, if I do gay shows, I'm gonna do I'm a gay person doing material. I don't have to do everything about being gay.
Well, no, I mean, I was talking about this with some people where, you don't necessarily have to like R-rated, uncensored shows, or you don't necessarily have to like the super safe, inclusive shows, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you don't have to like the people running them. But that doesn't mean you can't do the shows themselves, right?
Yeah.
I find obviously you've done my show. It's 100% uncensored. It's extremely X-rated.
Yeah.
We say a lot of garbage stuff on stage, right? That's very harsh.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I also do this. I do all the inclusive shows in the city, or at least I try to get on, and I have done them, because it's a whole different muscle. It's a different audience. It's the audience that would not have come to my dark roast show on any given day of the week. And I do enjoy being able to have range.
Yeah.
When I go to, let's say, a show that's a South Asian themed show, I like being able to talk about things that I would never have been able to in any other. Like if I'm doing a show for, and this was maybe a year ago, it was just like a Friday night early show. There weren't that many people, but there was a bunch of brown people who had just come to Canada. And I was able to talk to them about geographic things in India that nobody else is going to get.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But
exactly.
it's fun to do that in that moment, but I can't build my whole career.
At
least I wouldn't want to. I'd get bored.
Exactly. And then, what happened to me also, that in 1997, I opened for Gloria Estefan.
Oh, yeah.
At the Air Canada Center. And I have read in the Judy Carter book, Judy Carter, who is a friend, by the way. I even brought her to Montreal to teach a workshop and to headline at the Comedy Nest.
Yeah.
So the thing is that in the Judy Carter book, it said, Judy Carter is like the ABC, right? It was in my day. I don't know now. But she said that the comedians opening for bands, they have to know that they will go suffer. Because the people didn't come and see you.
Yeah.
They came to see the band. I have this in my head. I couldn't sleep when I heard that I was going to open for it. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
But then I realized, so Ann May, I don't know if you know of Ann May. She was a booker for YHAJ.
Aunt May?
Anne.
Anne May. I was like, Spider-Man's aunt?
No,
What?
Anne May, like she was from France, Quebecoise.
Okay.
Martha Chaves. So Anne May and Evan take me to the CNE where YHAJ had a room. And I bombed.
Oh.
And I bombed with the material I was planning to do.
For Gloria
For
Estefan?
Gloria.
Oh my God.
So then what's his name? Like la 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 la. Ronnie Edwards.
Oh, okay.
Ronnie Edwards. He says to me, sister, he goes, what you have to do now when you go there is tell the joke and expect that it comes back.
Okay.
Tell the joke because it's a big place.
Yeah, and they don't, and they react in waves, right?
And you have to go slower. And then I meet Emilio Estefan right away, who was like, he made me feel so welcome. And then, this is the idea, Canada Center is at 6 o'clock, it's August, it's outside.
It's bright.
It's bright. So then I go, I have it on tape. Then I go and I see that they have Cuban flags, and I have read about Gloria, right, her experience. And I go, hi, I'm Martha Chaves from Nicaragua. I'm a refugee from Nicaragua, like Gloria. She brought me with, I think I may have said Muera Fidel, death to Fidel. I was going to save myself.
Course,
you know, like I wasn't going to, I did 20
audience.
minutes.
Yeah.
And I got applause breaks.
Nice, yeah.
Still, the other day, somebody says, I remember you when you opened for Gloria Estefan. More than the 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, so then that experience, you transfer it to you. I remember I have notebooks in which I give instructions to myself. Let's say I see somebody's destroying before me. I just write, I am who I am. I don't have to be somebody else.
Yeah.
They like me. I write my little notes to this day. Or I have this, and then I transfer it to it. I have this experience, and I can use the fear that I felt in this experience and how I survived it.
Okay.
To apply for other shows.
So you have all the skills and experience you've picked up from doing all these different shows.
That's why you have to do it, even if you risk that you won't be in the ideal way, that they won't cater to you, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation. I mean, your sex life, or you have to. That's why I said comedy is translation.
Yeah, that's your literal job, right?
Not pandering.
Yeah, not pandering.
But translating and applying all that. Then that was 1997. Then came in through the outdoor a gay show that Andy Nullman, the CEO of Just for Laugh, a gay sketch show that they produced in Montreal, and I was not invited to be in the cast. It was Elvira, Maggie Casella, Leah Delaria, Bob Smith, but I was invited to be warm-up.
Okay.
And of course, I got my first gala, 1998, from there.
From the warm-up.
From the warm-up, because Just for Laugh was seeing it. They gave me the 1998 gala, and then so then it's all of these things. The more you push yourself to be in situations that are not comfortable. Yeah, like when I went to do my first tour in Alberta.
Yeah, same thing. You cannot think of a less comfortable place.
It's like they don't know me, right? But I always applied, and I always write for the city that I am in. Like whenever I go to whatever city, I learn, I read the news just before going.
Of course,
now it's easier with the internet, and then say like 2-3 things that make them believe they are important.
Right. No, you obviously kind of have to like soften and break the audience a little bit.
There was a horrible one that they advised us that it was going to be horrendous. In Fairview, Alberta.
Oh God!
Which is a pipeline. It is a bar.
Okay.
But I was with Sam Easton, who is very, Sam Easton, who is a very friendly person, and I had just done the movie with Denzel. So of course that gave me, and then all of these people that were drunk. how would I say it? Blind, when you're blind drunk.
Blind drunk, yeah.
Blind
Just
drunk.
done.
Nothing is going through that brain. But they are laughing because I'm a movie star.
That's awesome.
In there, you know what I mean? So I have had like a good career in that sense. I never became a household name. I don't know if I still have time.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you know.
Well, I mean,
but for me, my aim was not to be rich and famous. My aim was to be a good comic.
Yeah. Well, on that note, speaking of 1998, I want to talk to you about Norm Macdonald. So we were talking about that before the show, right? So I read, just to like give everybody a Cliff's Notes of the interview he did, where he basically said the Me Too movement was going too far. The Louis C.K. and Roseanne went through something that their victims didn't go through, which is lose everything overnight. And not to mention the part that made me check out of that whole interview was he said that he didn't know racism was that bad these days till he saw the Sacha Baron Cohen show that he's doing lately. So at that point I knew this is a guy who's not connected to the world. No. After that, he issued an apology. He went on Howard Stern. He said that he's sorry for people if he made them feel like re-victimized, blah, blah, blah. It was very, like, he's very awkward in the way he discusses politics, right? And his defenders, the usual suspects, they're like, leave Norm alone, freedom of speech, Me Too has gone too far, blah, blah, blah. Louis C.K. should be allowed to do stand-up again. You know, the whole same deal. In his show, which is why this interview happened, Norm Macdonald has a show. He actually even interviews a bunch of people. Some of them are really good interviews, actually. One of the ones that kind of stood out was the Drew Barrymore interview, because there she kind of agrees with him. She's like, you know, the things we used to say to each other when we were children, now it's all taboo. And that part kind of surprised me, because that's not a good argument for
you smell
anything.
Like poo?
Like, I mean,
you smell like poo was it's nice that they want to say when we were children.
I mean, it's like, just because something was okay to do 20 years ago is not a reason for it to be okay now. If anything, it's a reason to look at it.
Exactly.
Right? And be like, should we change this? We've been doing this for 20 years. Maybe it deserves a second look.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I understand what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He is not seeing the transgression of a tweet from Roseanne to lose it all. But what I think is that she didn't lose it all over one tweet. She lost it all because even before, even in her first sitcom, writers believed that she was a nightmare to work for.
Okay.
Like that she was very difficult. And I understand why she may have been a nightmare, because she said in those days that they wanted to sanitize her. That they wanted to take the blue collarness of her essence, because that's exactly why Roseanne was so different in those days. No other woman on television has been a fat woman with opinions and talking about my husband. It was all the opposite.
Right.
Although I love Lucy. Lucy wanted to be him, and he's the one with the accent.
Right.
But women were prime, proper, and perfect. And she broke that mold. And once that Carsey Warner gave her the show, she said that they were going to sanitize her.
Right.
So it was difficult to write for her. Plus, she's a difficult person. She fell on her head when she was, she had a very bad head injury, and she confessed in the second autobiography that she had, in which she's with Tom Arnold in a picture. She said that she and Tom Arnold used to do industrial amounts of chemical drugs.
Of course
that has to affect you. I'm sorry.
No, but that's right. That she didn't lose everything because of one tweet. It was a series of events.
She was probably a nightmare to work at the moment, and then they decided, yes, and comparing black people with monkeys at this day and age, it is, it's one thing, but like you're just feeding the fire of this horrible monster that has shown up. It's not that he awakened. Racism must have been there, but they are emboldened by the brazen racism of the president.
Yeah, and the even the defense that it was just a tweet, it was just a joke. I find it a little hypocritical.
Yeah.
For comedians to say something is just a joke. I'm like, your whole job is that your words are important.
Exactly.
You go up on stage because you believe your words are important, but the second somebody pushes back, you're like, that wasn't important. That was just a joke. I didn't mean anything.
She has a track record also of ignorant tweets. She pushed the birther.
Yeah, exactly. She pushed the birther.
The birther thing of Obama.
Yeah.
What else did she do?
Just
tons of things. And
yeah.
I believe that maybe they wouldn't have fired her, but maybe they just said, let's get rid of her. She's driving us crazy. It's my opinion.
No, that's true.
Maybe they just said, and I loved, like, you cannot imagine how I loved that woman. Although when I did see her in Just for Laugh, I did not say hello to her.
Yeah, well,
because I thought she will bark at me and then she'll be dead to me completely.
Well, I think like the way you're describing how you looked up to Roseanne and then how she fell is a similar sentiment to how a lot of comedians, including myself, looked up to Louis C.K. And then, it was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago that these allegations started to bubble up. And that's when kind of put up, like, for me, I have a hard time separating the art from the artist. Yeah,
especially in his case.
Yeah, I mean, his...
he was like, we thought that he was honest.
Yes.
So, I mean, come back, Louis, come back on stage only if you address what happened.
You have to, absolutely, yeah.
And then if you like went through a process of realizing that what you did was wrong.
Say it. He never
say it.
Even
he never say it.
His apology was not even. I remember reading it 5 times and going, "Am I crazy, or is he praising himself in his apology?"
Yeah, it was because he did ask them. Now, there is another current that says that a lot of women did take advantage of men that wanted to sleep with them. It never happened to me. I was never offered I was never offered a coach audition. Never a comedy club owner wanted to sleep with me. Never the comics on the road wanted to harass me or anything. That's why when some people say the Yak Yak comic, I have toured for 20 years with the Yak Yak's comic.
Wait, you're saying that some people are saying that women are using their sexuality to get ahead?
Yeah, some people say that.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's always people saying that.
And it may have been at one point what women were trained to think
as a way of circumventing the nature of the beast.
I will do this so I can get this. It's not only men that are ingrained in the patriarchal behavior.
Also women.
It's also women.
There's a British actress today who was on BBC talking about this. She's of South Asian descent. I forget her name. She's on The Good Place, I think, and she was specifically talking about the Kardashians. She was saying that they are people like that, or women. Actually, she specifically was talking about women. She's like, and what you just said. This actress, she's, I think, a little younger, maybe in her 20s. But what she was saying is that women who are tools of the patriarchy also need to be called out. We have to be able to give constructive criticism to a woman who's bad for other women. And the example she was using was like the Kardashians. They market things like weight loss lollipop or stuff like that. Like appetite suppressants. Their company's called Flat Tummy. And she's like, this is somebody who is in a position of power, who a lot of young girls look at them as almost their big sister role models, right? Yeah. And what are they doing with that? They're doing with that they're priming them for men. They're priming them for men.
Everything is priming for men. Everything. Yeah. And I got because my mother was of the first generation of lawyers in Nicaragua, and my mother always would come back. But my father was a lawyer too, and I saw equality between both of them. Although he was more important.
Because he's a man?
Because he was a man. I mean, there was a quality in that she could get these jobs, but he didn't have the complaints that she had.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That she would come to the house and she would take her earrings, she would say, and I don't sleep, I way up, and stuff like that, as if, and then I always learned that you had to fight. That as a woman, that's why when you ask me how was it difficult, it may have been, but I ignored it.
Right.
Because I ignored it because I had other difficulties to concentrate.
You gotta toughen up, is what you're saying.
Exactly, to concentrate, like pronouncing well, like translating well.
Yeah.
Because humor is humor. You don't translate word by word. But I never did it in Spanish. I went back to Spanish when I was a headliner in English already.
Yeah.
I mean, I started doing it in Spanish.
Well, are there any women today, young, new comics that you think are very promising? Like your favorites that you think are going to do really well?
I think Ana Maria
Stoich,
Ana Maria Stoich. I think Carol.
Carol Zocoli is amazing.
Carol Zocoli. There is a lot of women that I love. I don't want to single them.
No, please single them.
And there is a lot of women that I don't.
That you don't
and
like?
Men.
You want to name them too?
And men. You know, like what I mean. I hate laziness.
Okay.
I hate laziness because I have worked for every joke.
Mm-hmm.
I have honed it. I have gone out to this point after 25 years. You see me in open mics.
Of course, yeah.
No, still honing it.
I tell a lot of people it's you and you know who else? Ron Jossel.
Yeah,
like
Ron Jossel.
The two of you have are
and
like.
we were the ethnic people in those days. I
Yeah.
was the only Spanish person in Canada.
Yeah,
I think.
and Ron is a Filipino comedian, and people didn't know what Filipino was. So I remember talking to him, and he used to even his jokes. If you see his earliest galas, he had to pretend or talk about Chinese stuff or being Samoan or like kind of find a way to
baby.
find a way to ease people into the Philippines.
Yeah,
but that was what 25 years ago, and to this day you see him at open mics trying new, and not just like the good ones where there's people. He'll go to everything Monday to Sunday.
To open mics, although I am afraid of people stealing your things.
Yeah.
But try to do it like I do it, bitch.
Oh, I did Anna Maria's. Speaking of Anna Maria's mic last night, which starts at 11:15 p.m. and it's a bucket, so they take names out of a bucket, so you don't know. And I was the bullet.
You go on first.
Oh God!
You know that was another thing that I was gonna tell you.
Yeah.
When people told the hierarchy, I was in Montreal. I was the bullet for a long time.
Yeah, you know what?
I didn't have I wasn't high enough.
The hierarchy,
And then you had to learn to be the bullet.
No, you know what? I enjoy taking bullets at open mics because it makes the Saturday show so much easier.
Yeah.
You know, if you've done that, like what I just described, 11:15, it didn't even start. I think it started at 11:30.
Yeah.
7 actual people in the audience, which is really good for a Tuesday night open mic, and then 20 comedians in the back waiting to get their names drawn. Nobody's laughing at each other's jokes. They're just wondering if their name's going to be drawn from a bucket, right?
You know who else I love? Juliana
Rodriguez? She's great.
And
yeah.
Jen Sacato.
Jen Sacato?
Yeah, I love most people that are it. The ones that I don't like are the ones that want to get by ethnicity, because they give a bad name to all of us.
So you're talking about, you like hustlers. You like people
I
who are...
like people who work, because I work very hard in this.
No, I agree with that too, because I tend to judge people who look like me harsher, because I'm like, we have to be better.
Exactly.
And your success or your failure actually impacts me and everybody else who looks like you.
Exactly. I wish that I would have been, and the only reason I wish I would have been a hetero white comic is because then I could just be a comic. I'm not representing.
You're not representing anybody.
Whereas we are representing. I didn't want this burden.
If I see a South Asian comic do poorly on TV or any mass, instantly I know I'm going to be judged because of that. Right? Yeah. They're going to be, this so-and-so did so poorly. Maybe we don't trust people who look like... And it's only true in certain cases, but it's still true.
Yeah.
Right? It's a fact that it's something that you have to deal with because, you are not the template. As Hannah Gadsby, I think she mentioned, if you're not straight, white, and male, you're not a normal, essentially. Exactly. I'm butchering what she said, but her idea was that, being a straight white guy is also an identity, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is considered other. So if you are like a gay Nicaraguan, comedian, immigrant, and all these other labels, suddenly like I said, your success or failure will forge a path or block a path.
And another thing that I hate is people that pander to the master.
Right.
In the sense like I heard
bootlickers.
I heard a joke the other day. I am this, I am that, I am that. If I were gay, I would fill a lot of boxes. It would be great for my comedy because I would be in a lot of boxes. What are you saying, motherfucker?
No, they're saying that people who are all those things are not funny inherently.
No, but that you get things
because of your identity.
Because of that. And that's been my 25-year fight.
Well,
I do not get things only because of that. People don't laugh at my jokes just because the accent is funny. I work on my jokes.
Yeah, exactly. And I
have proven myself.
And you want to see other comedians following after you do the same.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking a shortcut using your identity to get on a show, you are then making it worse for everybody who's like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And another thing is stop concentrating on fame.
Oh,
because
yeah,
that's something that may or may not come. Nobody's career exploded, blew up like Russell Peters, let's say. Very few people. Very few Canadian. It's a total anomaly.
It was timing and the fact that there weren't any South Asian comedians.
And they put his thing on the YouTube.
And YouTube had just come out. Yeah.
Exactly. And he had that gift of relating to ethnic people.
Yeah.
Was it politically correct? Maybe
not even close.
Not even close. But he had the gift.
Yeah, the guy
because he was brown, he could get away with it.
Yeah, in 2002, a brown guy doing a Chinese accent on TV was fine.
It was fine. No, it is
34, 50. That's what he did, right?
And still, I think that he still can get away with it.
He could, but if I went up on stage and I made fun of Asian people by doing their accent, I would get...
That's because you're not Russell. He has a certain...
likability, I guess. Yeah, people are like,
about that.
Yeah.
And I know that some people have beef with Russell and everything, but just the other day he gave $5,000 to Gavin Stevens.
Oh, Gavin Stevens'
when
house.
My mother was sick, and this I will always be grateful to Russell. When my mother was sick, I came to do a tour, and he was asking me. He came to do a spot at the club, and he was asking how things are going, and I go, well. I am in Guatemala. I am not coming here often. And, the money that I had in the movies, and I went. And then after that, he goes, can you do me a favor? Go to my truck outside and give me a binder that I have there. And I go, I don't know what it was, and he gave me money.
Oh, my God.
In the thousands.
Oh, I'm sure. Wow.
For my mother.
That's amazing.
And I never asked him.
Yeah.
Like out of the goodness of his heart.
No,
so I wish him all the success he has.
Well, he has a lot of it.
He has a lot of it. Yeah.
I think it's every year it's either him or Seinfeld who are the highest grossing touring comedians in North America.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's never booked me for a show with him because he used to tell me he can't follow me.
I believe that.
Why? Because I am a preview. He's gonna come and talk about accents.
Yeah.
And I have an accent.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you don't want somebody to step over your premise before you, right?
Yeah. So I it's not because of that he's booking me or anything. Or that I hope for a booking, but I wanted to give a shout out when a shout out is due.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
That was pretty much it. I was just gonna ask you if
about Norm Macdonald. We never finished talking about.
Well, we I'm sure the internet can talk about the rest of it.
No, you know what? I admire him. Like he's mine. And I was kind of like I agree with certain things he said. I don't think he's the devil. I just think he's out of touch.
Well, I kind of personally, I got the sense that not that he's not out of touch, but he never was in touch. I don't think that's not a part of life he engages in.
He got cancer at one point, and after that, I think he became a Christian. And he's like one of those crazy Christians, and then
fundamentalist.
Oh, okay. And he may be hiding it.
Okay.
And that's why he's not saying anything. But
I just kind of got the sense that he's just out of his depth. Like that Bill Burr. He's got that bit about he doesn't want to get too old for the world. Right? Where he doesn't want to be the guy in the car yelling at, turn the music down. This is not real music. Back in my day, real music was about praising Satan and drinking the blood of goats. Real rock music, not this DJ bullshit.
I haven't seen him. Linda and I, we love Bill Burr. And
he's great.
He may be politically incorrect.
He's extremely incorrect. Yeah.
But it's just like... I know where he's coming from.
I mean, he definitely he's got ideas and things that I might not necessarily agree with, but the context is he is trying to make a larger point almost, and B, if you don't like it, don't listen. Even my hero George Carlin. Right. Yeah. Same.
Even my hero has a bit in which he says, "Give him the boys to Michael Jackson."
Oh my God.
Bring the boys to him.
Jesus Christ.
Like go see it. But I know.
He's being absurd.
What he's saying. No. He was saying it was a reflection on how people idolizes people.
Right.
So he
Okay,
talks
okay.
before of that. He talks about Sinatra. He talks about Elvis. Then he talks about Michael Jackson, and he's like, bring him the boy. But it's not that he's saying that, but he's saying
It's the culture.
People will
Celebrity culture,
will get it. People will admit it.
Right. They will
because of celebrity culture.
No. I mean, that's the thing, right? We kind of hold these people up to this perfect ideal, and suddenly they do something that we're like, oh my God, you're actually not perfect. You're not this
and
god.
And that's another thing, like for example with Michael Jackson music, I still listen to it.
There's no denying his talent.
And I could separate the person from the accusation which he was acquitted.
Well, I
know
people disagree on this. I always thought that he was innocent. I just kind of got the feeling that just because of his life, I mean, I don't know if I'm right or not, and just because of his life, people know this. He didn't have a childhood, so he was trying to recreate his childhood when he had money, right?
Yeah.
And then the fact that just if he was truly who he was, I would have thought there would be more people coming out, like more parents of children going just like a couple of things like that,
Princess Leia told a story about the creepy dentist who was was her dentist, and he was the father of one of the kids, of the actual kids.
Yeah.
He says Carrie Fisher says that he told her he's at the Neverland Ranch.
Yeah.
My son is very good looking,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
As if they were pimping the children.
That's what I mean. So with MJ, I always thought, okay, there's too much here that I can't make up my mind, and I'm gonna it's not R. Kelly, right? It's not like R. Kelly peeing on a 15-year-old.
No, it's not R. Kelly, and it's not Chris Brown.
It's not Chris Brown. It's not Bill Cosby.
It's not Bill Cosby. I mean, I love Bill Cosby. I because of that friend of mine, John Rogers, who wrote for him. He said he used to tell us that he swore like a sailor, that you had to call him Dr. Cosby.
Yeah.
Because of that honorary degrees that he had, and that they were always shaking because they would do a script and he would change everything.
Oh, of course he did.
At them in the nick of time, just before. So he was kind of like a monster that way.
That's
Gomeshi, I hate you, Gomeshi, if you're listening.
No, he can go
eat a dick. Because he actually showed that reel of him breaking the ribs of a woman. With consent or not consent. You're sick in your fucking head.
Oh, no, 100%. I mean, like a lot of people. There was like this minor attempt to reframe it as a sex positive, kink positive BDSM thing, but no. What he was doing was none of those things. I'm sorry.
And now this attempt that he just had recently. It's horrible. But anyway, it has been very nice talking to you.
So anything you want to plug? Anything coming up?
Well, I have a show tomorrow at the Hughes Room, but I don't know if this is
not
enough tomorrow.
time.
I am hosting Accent on Toronto at the Danforth Music Hall the day that marijuana becomes legal.
October 17th.
October 17th, nice. Danforth Music Hall. I am hosting it at 8 p.m. You can get tickets at the at the Ticketmaster.
Yes.
Accent on Toronto.
And please get me on that show sometime. All right.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, everybody. That was Martha Chaves, episode 8. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.